friends, and welcome back to Paradise Lost in Books. I'm Christy, here with another book talk for you guys, and today I'm going to be talking about The Elite by Kiera. This is the second book in the Selection series, and I already did a book talk on the first book, The Selection, so I'll leave a link to that down below if you'd like to go check that out. For the non-spoilery people, if you haven't read it yet, you probably shouldn't be watching this video until you read the first book. And once you do, come back and we can talk about it, because there's not really much I can say to not spoil it, because it's the second book in the series. So why are you here if you haven't read it? Go do that, okay? Go do that and come back and we'll talk about it. Alright, so for those of you who have read the book, you should still be here. This book picks up with the 6 elite girls in the Selection. Alright, so first let's start with the things that I did like. I liked that it opened with them on a really cute stargazing date. I thought that was adorable, and I thought it really showed how America is actually putting forth an effort in this competition. We can talk about that more later, but I thought it was a really cute first date. It was really sweet. As far as the actual plot goes, there wasn't a whole lot of big things happening again. I mean, there were, but there weren't. It's kind of hard to explain, but not a whole lot for me was super exciting up until the Halloween party. I thought that was a beautifully written scene. I thought it was really sweet, and America was at her most likable. Let's be perfectly honest. I honestly was very, very annoyed with America up until Halloween. I was like, yes, she finally realizes how awesome Maxon is, because the whole Halloween party he did just because they read Gregory Ilya's diary together, and she was like, Halloween sounds cool, I wish we could do that. And he was like, let's do it then. He did that for you, America. He did that for you because you said you wanted it, and he threw a whole party just for you. Anyways, I thought the whole Halloween scene was really sweet and beautiful, and it gave me a lot of hope for where the book was going. But since it happened so close to the beginning, I knew that America was only going to screw things up. She did, but at least we have that moment we can look back on. I also really liked the scene with Marley getting caned. Not that I liked her getting caned. Like, obviously that was horrible, but I thought that the scene was really well done. I was actually listening to that scene on the audiobook as I was pulling into work, and I was just sitting in my parking space like, oh my god, what is happening? What is going on right now? It was so emotionally stressful. It's one of the pitfalls of listening to audiobooks, is if, you know, emotionally traumatizing things happen, then I have to go work, and it's difficult. It pains me. But I thought the scene was written really well. I thought it was amazing how America, you know, ran out there and tried to protect Marley. And I thought it was a really important lesson for America. I think if maybe she hadn't been so emotional in the moment, she could have learned something from Marley's situation. Like, first of all, that you should be more in tune with what your heart wants, because Marley knew that she and Carter could be killed for seeing each other behind Maxon's back, but she did it anyway, and they were supportive of each other through the whole caning, and I feel like America could really learn a lesson with that kind of loyalty. And also just the fact what she's risking by seeing Aspen behind Maxon's back, you know, it's just like, is this really worth it, America? Like, can you make a decision, please? Because there's a lot at risk here, and it's only because Maxon is such a good person that Marley and Carter aren't dead. And this scene also kind of spoke to how really screwed up their society is. I mean, they've talked before about how if you're not a virgin when you get married, you can be put to death. And the fact that, Marley caught feelings for someone else should just excuse her from the Selection. She should be able to just be like, you know what? I fell in love with someone, and I have feelings for them and not Maxon. Sorry about it, but it would probably be best if I just bowed out. I just feel like that should be an okay thing, not like, oh, we have to punish you for having human emotion. It's a really messed up society that they live in. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. There's a lot more to say about Marley's scene, but a lot of them fit under the dislike category, so I'll come back to that later. I also really liked America beating the shit out of Celeste. When Celeste was like, nah, she's a whore, she got what was coming to her, or whatever it was she said, and America was just like, nah, bitch, and beat the shit out of her. That was amazing. She just let her have it, and that was great. And again, Maxon protected her, even though she really doesn't deserve it. Another highlight of this book to me, besides Halloween and all that, was when the Italians came, and they had like this little competition to see which set of girls could throw the better party. And America and Chris clearly won. Like, their party was a lot of fun. And I thought that was a really fun scene to read, like watching them plan the party and stuff. And the Italians were so much fun, and I think they're going to end up being really important later because they really seem to like America, and they really seem to be backing her. And I think that's going to be really important for her later because obviously she's not going to get this crown by her own charm, so she obviously is going to need some allies in the future. Speaking of which, I'm really glad the rebels came back in this book. They were definitely a bigger presence, so I can tell that it's going to be a bigger theme, the whole idea of the rebels, and they're going to be a lot more important. But I liked the part where America ran off into the woods. She's like, what are you doing? Like, why would you do that? But anyways, the whole scene was pretty cool, especially with the rebel girl who had the books in her bag, and then she curtsied to America. And I was confused why America was confused, because I felt like it was pretty obvious that the curtsy was like, we choose you, like the rebels want you to be princess because we think that you understand us the best and that you will be our advocate. Like, they was this not obvious? Like, am I just, I don't know. I thought it was pretty obvious that that's what that meant. Like, the rebel was showing you respect. Like, obviously, she likes you. I don't know. America's dumb. What can I say? But I thought that was pretty cool, and I think it's going to lead to some really interesting complications later if the nonviolent rebels are supporting one of the girls in the selection. Like, maybe we'll see some kind of, cooperation between Maxon, because we know his father isn't going to do it, between Maxon and the rebels. That could be really interesting. I also just want to say that I'm glad Queen Amberly is a little bit more present. I think it's really sweet how she kind of mothers the girls, and I think it's really sweet how she wants a daughter, but she's trying so hard not to get attached, and I just really look forward to seeing her relationship with America grow. I still think America is gonna win, like I said in my last video, but I am a little bit more concerned because she seems so keen on fucking things up, so I guess we'll see. But I think it'd be really nice to see that kind of mother-daughter relationship, since America's mother is so stern. Not that she doesn't love her mother, but her mother is very stern, and I just think it would be cool to see them develop that mother-daughter relationship. I also really liked Chris becoming a threat. I thought that served America right. I was like, it sucks to be you, bitch. Like, she jumps to all these conclusions after Marley's caning, and she was like, oh, Maxon's a horrible person. Oh my gosh, he let this happen when... Oh my god, saving it for the dislikes. But anyways, I thought it served America right that Chris became a threat and that Maxon was actually becoming interested in one of the other girls. I think Chris is great. I thought she was really interesting, and I liked seeing her get to know Maxon, and I thought it was hilarious to watch America struggle with her feelings of jealousy when she was watching them get closer. And this is also connected to Marley again, because we end up finding out that Maxon didn't send Marley away. He let them stay in the castle. And then America's like, oh, he's really not a bad guy. And it's like, wow, maybe if you hadn't been jumping to conclusions all this time, you would have realized that sooner, sweetheart. Could have saved yourself a lot of trouble. But, I mean, he's just constantly doing for other people, just always. I just think it's so wonderful that he somehow orchestrates for Marley and Carter to stay in the castle behind his father's back. Like, I really started to love Maxon at that point. Like, I had started to like him more and more over the course of this book, but that was the moment when I was like, wow, Maxon is truly an amazing guy, and wow, he deserves so much better than America, to be honest. One other thing I really liked was the scene at the end where there's another rebel attack and she and Maxon end up in the safe room together, and it's just them, and she finds out that his father's been beating him. I wasn't really surprised to find out his father had been beating him, but it was just really disturbing, and I really liked the talk that they had where she finally let him explain himself. finally heard his side of things, and they really talked things out. You know, it was one of like 3 likable moments for America in this book. It was just like, okay, finally we're having a real conversation. Why couldn't this have happened like 150 pages ago? You know, why did all of this crazy shit have to happen? You know, just listen to people. When you love someone, you listen to them. That's what you're supposed to do. But it was really refreshing, and it made me feel hopeful again that the one is going to be a much simpler book, that maybe we won't have as many love triangle complications because they finally got everything out in the open, and that was really nice. The last thing on my likes list was I really liked Maxon putting America in her place at the end. Like, he's talking to her and he's like, you're gonna get to stay. I haven't talked about the whole her saying she wants to dissemble the cast yet because that's under my dislike list, but the king was gonna send America home, and Maxon managed to get her to stay, and he's like, you're gonna stay, but you don't have my trust. I don't trust you not to do stupid idiot things, and you're gonna have to work to get my trust back. And I just love that he does that, and he stands up for himself and tells her, like, yeah, Chris is your competition. I like Chris, and she and I are gonna have dinner tonight. Suck it up, and you know, if you want to be with me, you're gonna have to prove it. You're gonna have to actually work for it. I feel like with Aspen, she never had to work for it. It was just kind of what was comfortable and what she was used to, and it was so easy to fall into those old habits. But if she wants Maxon, she's gonna have to work for it. So I'm interested to see where that goes in the next book, because, you know, if she could make a decision and then do something about it, that would be much appreciated. All right, so now I'm going to switch over to the things I didn't like. I still hate Aspen. Everything I said in the last video about Aspen is still true. And he was even more annoying in this book. He's so pushy. He thinks that if he pushes hard enough, I think America actually says something like this near the end of the book. She's like, you keep pushing because you think that if you push hard enough, things are gonna go back to the way they were before. And they're not. It's never gonna happen. You know, he gives her directions, and he tells her that Maxon is a bad person and sneaks around with her behind Maxon's back, and they're kissing and being stupid. And like I said in the last video, again, I knew where this was going because I've kind of been in similar situations where, you know, I didn't exactly do the best job of handling multiple people having affection. So I wasn't surprised, but I was really annoyed. It's kind of like when you try and give someone advice, but you know they're not going to take it because they just have to do the stupid thing themselves. It was kind of like that. I was like, don't do the thing, and she did the thing. So I just hated Aspen through the whole thing. You know, I really like that she puts him in his place at the end of the book. He's like, he actually has the audacity to say to her, you know, I'm your only choice, or something like that. And she's like, yeah, you really want me to settle for you? You know, he's just so desperate and needy at the end. And she kind of just finally is like, no, dude, like, I don't want to be with you just because I have no other choice. I want to make a choice. And she finally does something decisive. So, you know, that was nice, but I still hate Aspen. He's such a jerk. Like, I can't stand him. Now let's talk about America's reaction to Marley's caning. Oh my God. Seriously, Maxon has done nothing but give and give and give to her. The education plan from book 1, the Halloween party, like lots of other little small things. Like, he listens to what she wants and then gives her what she wants. And she still insists on jumping to conclusions about his character. Like, she immediately cuts herself off from him and gets angry about what happened to Marley, never stopping to think for a second that he really didn't have a choice. The law says that they should be put to death. He can't just be like, fuck you, I want to do what I want to do and whatever. Like, he's not the king yet. He can't just do that. He really did right by Marley and Carter, and America refuses to even entertain the idea. She just runs to Aspen, and then she wants to get upset and jealous when Maxon starts getting close to Chris. Like, her whole reaction to that was just frustrating. And the same thing goes for the kiss with Celeste, which I actually thought was a really cool scene. I really liked seeing that. You know, Celeste and Maxon are making out in a hallway, and America sees it, and she's like, oh my God! She gets so upset, and then Maxon chases her down, and you know, tries to console her, and then she's like, I'm done with this, blah, you're fake, you're a liar, and she just gets so mad, and again, never stops to consider why he might be doing that, and you know, the point is for him to be dating these other girls. But she just goes ahead and assumes that it's all for show and that he's fake just like her, and, you know, is an asshole. America is an asshole. She just can't get out of her own head and stop making assumptions about people, and it's really aggravating. But that is kind of what leads to her deciding to tell everyone on the report that she wants to dissemble the casts, which is fine. Like, I do think the casts need to be dissembled, but like Maxon told her, you can't just say that on national television. Like, as much as you want to be like the people's champion or whatever, there are still protocols you need to follow. There's ways to do these things that aren't so loud and obnoxious, you know? And she just royally fucks up, and she knows that she messed up too. Like, she just keeps making bad decisions one after another. I don't know what's wrong with this girl, honestly. Another thing that was weird to me was right before she did that thing with the cast, she was reading Gregory Ilya's diary. It was the weirdest, most unbelievable thing. Like, you have this grown-ass man writing in a diary, first of all. Second of all, he's writing down all of his evil, sadistic plans. Like, he talks about how he wants to control and manipulate the people, and he talks about how he doesn't care about anything but power. First of all, it was super on the nose. There was no subtlety or art involved in his thoughts. There was no reading between the lines. It was just like, I'm evil. Huh. Second of all, it was just really unbelievable. I don't think a good ruler, which obviously he wasn't a good ruler, but a smart person wouldn't just write down their deepest, darkest, most sadistic thoughts in a diary and then just leave it where anyone could find it. And then the whole idea that the royal family kind of uses that as their guidebook, that just seemed really unbelievable to me. I had a hard time with that. I also thought it was weird. I kind of talked about technology in the last video I did, but we find out that internet is kind of like a non-existent thing anymore, and I also thought that was really strange. Like, I could understand internet not being accessible to the lower caste, but the fact that she didn't seem to know really what it was seemed really strange. We're on the other side of World War IV here. You can't just like go back and pretend that the internet never happened. That would be like pretending that the Industrial Revolution never happened or something like that. You know, you can't just erase that from history. So I had a hard time believing that. I just don't really understand the setup of this world in terms of technology and where it fits in their history, you know? All right, and the last thing I kind of want to say about dislikes is I really hated the king. Like, he was kind of a jerk before, but he really showed his true character in this book between beating Maxon and the way that he assaulted America there at the end. It makes me really curious about how Amberly ever fell in love with him. So I'm really interested to read Happily Ever After and kind of see what exactly he was like during his selection. Overall, I think I'd give this book a 3 out of 5. I mean, I think I like the selection better in terms of the mood of the book. Like, this one I was annoyed at America a lot more, but it was still kind of, you know, middle of the road. Like, I want to keep reading and see what happens, but just kind of like the way I felt at the end of the selection, it's not super gripping. I'm not like in love with the story. In fact, I'm pretty pissed off at a lot of the characters, but I am hopeful because I do think that the plot is getting deeper, which I thought the plot was really shallow in the first book, but it does seem to be getting deeper, and I think the rebels are going to become more important. So I am hopeful for the third book. I'm really excited to see where the series goes. Hopefully it ends on a high note, because so far this series has been like the upper end of like mediocre for me. The writing is really good. I think it's a great idea, but I just haven't seen the execution I was hoping for. So, you know, right now I'm at about a 3 out of 5 for the whole series. I like it, but I don't love it. Alright guys, that is it for my book talk on The Elite by Kiera Cass. I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks again for sticking around for the whole video if you did so. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you would give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thank you again so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate you. Bye!